with a different type of figures for hate. I hope you guys are ready. We're going to have a good time. I've got it all ready. Why don't we get down to the table and get right to work and get going as we continue our series on painting Hate, the board game. All right, today we are working on this prince. Now, of course, as you guys know, this almost follows the same type of blueprint that we've been following for the last few days. Basically, primed black, and then to get all the metal out of the way, I just decided to dry brush the entire miniature lead belcher, because now I'll start breaking things up and putting them in. So the first thing I really kind of want to start is probably on this fur, and then we'll go into his flesh, and then we'll start seeing other little things that we can do to start to enhance our guy here. So without further ado, let me grab some, I think we're going to go with dried bark. I think that's what's going to work for us best, just to cover the brown parts, and let's get working on it. Alright, so we're going to start on all the fur first. I think that's usually the easiest way, and just taking that nice dried bark that really works here, and just finding and identifying the fur pieces, and or the whatever buffalo that they decided to kill that time, and basically really get that on here. Now, I'm not worried about getting anywhere on anything, and most of all, because I can do the touch-ups that I want to do, all I want to do is just get good coverage right now, just so I can break things up and know exactly where I need to be, like coming up in here and so forth and so on. And I'm not worried about, again, not worried about hitting any of this plate, because I know I can just touch it up later on. And we've got all these skulls. I'm not worried about hitting those. Right now, it's all about getting this fur, and we will touch up some of the metallic later. But getting the fur and making sure that we cover it all and get it all is our most important agenda right off the bat. As you see, we're going on here pretty good. Alright, I'm going to finish this up, and then we'll show you what we'll do next. Alright, as you can see, I've already started laying in a little bit of the flesh. Nice and thin coats, and just making sure that I get it in there. And all we do is just kind of work it in there. Nice and easy. Try not to hit the metallic, but if you do, don't worry about it. We've got some spots over here that we can work that in. I mean, this is a pretty big dude, and it stands out pretty well, especially on his elbows here, where you're going to want to be working. See, I got a little on that shield there, but that's okay. We're going to make that work. I'm just going to move this around a little bit, and then just come right around. I know I'm going to have to touch that shield up, so I'm not too worried about anything I'm hitting right now. And just kind of go over this a little bit. There we go. And nothing on his legs or anything like that on the back side. We got good coverage, and I'm just going to finish this up, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this guy next. Okay, with this guy, I'm trying to not continually go over the same stuff over and over again, but we've got all our browns in, we got all our flesh in. We've straightened up the hair, and now I'm going to take some Ushabi bone, and I'll show it to you in a minute. But we're going to go over all the skulls, and we're going to go over the horns as well. And this is, of course, Ushabi bone. Great color to get those skulls in, and boy, does he have a lot of skulls. I mean, they're all up in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we cover all those, and be careful not to get the brown and everything else, and you really just kind of want to get everything in there. So I'm going to finish all these up, and you're going to see where all the skulls are. I'll show you, and then we're going to get these horns as well with the Ushabi bone. And you know, this guy moves pretty quickly because he's mostly armor, which is really good. So this is going to be a really quick video, hopefully, if I don't keep rambling on. So we'll be back once we get all these shabby bone painted in. Alright, now we're starting to get ready to put on our washes finally, and all we're going to do is we want to make sure that we get some Agrath Earthshade and really just work it in there. And you see how this just sits in there very nicely and brings out his abdomen. We've got his arm all the way back here we want to take care of. And we're not afraid to get this on the metal or anything like that. I mean, that's okay. And we're going to work it into his armband here. And, of course, his horns. We really want to kind of get it a little thicker on there to darken it up, because we're going to lighten all this up anyways. And then, of course, we got the skeletons back here, which we want to get in his hair. Don't worry about getting it in his hair because his hair is black, and we're going to dry brush the hair as well as a few other things here. So it's going to look like junk right now, but just, you got to trust me. You got to trust me on this one. We'll definitely get out of this, and we'll really get this to really stand out. So I'm going to finish up moving around this wash, and then we'll come back once it's dry, and then we're going to add another layer of wash on, and then we're going to start to build out, and that's where we're really going to see this figure start to come to life. Okay, now that we got all the bone set, and you can see how that's sitting, what we're going to do is take some new oil, but we're not going to overcome it with new oil like we normally would do. What we just want to do is hit certain areas, not so much to darken them down, but to give them a certain amount of depth. See how that all just sits in that recess? That's all I want to do. Just go lightly over this shield. The other thing is that what we're trying to accomplish here is really to have the metal sit up on this particular guy, because we're just going to want to add a little shadow. That's all I'm trying to do here. But for the most part, I just want that metal to get enough of this wash where I can get it to sit up correctly. And I'm trying to be careful here. It doesn't matter if I get it on the hair, because we're going to dry brush the hair. So coming across here is fine. The other part is that watch how this works here, and just, it gives that shadow, it gives that illusion, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. I can even add a little in here to make that a little darker as we go to bring that out. And of course these horns here, which are pretty important because it's a centerpiece of his of just who he is. Just a bad guy with a bunch of horns on his head, right? And then just to come back here a little bit and do the same thing with some of the metal right in here, and just get that to sit right where we want it to. And it'll be pretty nice. Make sure we do the back side of the weapon. I always forget to do the back side. You know, you look at the front and you go, oh, that looks good, and then you forget about it because it's done, and then later on you're like, oh man, I forgot to do that. Don't forget to do that part. And I want to be careful not to hit these skulls. As you see, these skulls are looking pretty good, but when we lighten them up, they're even gonna be stronger, and that's another benefit. And you know, we're pretty close here with this guy. We're gonna do some things that we normally don't do, and I want to show you guys. And we're just gonna add a little bit of things that we normally don't do. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then what we're gonna do is move on to the next step. All right, the next thing that we want to do here is basically we want to hit I've been using this Terminus stone, and I really think that it's really, really good for really going over some of these skulls. So what you want to do is just very, very, very gingerly go over it and kind of just dry brush those things. Be careful not to get it into the hair here, and I think it just really stands out and really brings these things to light. And that's all we're trying to do, is just really just make these skulls really excel a little bit, not taking away a lot of detail. And this is a dry brush paint that you can get from GW, and it really just does wonders. It really does. And you see the effect that you get, which is really, really nice. Another skull over here. I mean, this dude's got skulls all over him. They all seem to have a lot of skulls, so I think they take a lot of pride in their kills, basically. And then these horns here, I want to start at the top here, and I really just kind of want to pull it towards me. I want to give it a bit of a shine, but I mean a lighter point, but I want to leave some of that wash in there to really exemplify or really have those horns kind of just stand out and just give that feel that, you know, not all, it's just not one color, it's a multicolored dimension there, if that's even a thought. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to touch up a few other things, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and I'm going to show you what we're going to do next, because we're almost there in the home finish here. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to take a little Longbeard gray, and we're going to work it into more of the fur here than anything else. And it has to be so light, because if you go too crazy with it, it's going to drown out that brown, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to give a nice highlight here. We're not looking to paint anything, and you can see how it sits up correctly right here. Also, we painted a little etching gray into these corners here, and we can go over that very lightly. Again, we're not worried about getting it over onto the metal, because again, we're going to go over the metal, but we really want to try to stay away from the metal as much as we can. That's why we're using like a smaller flat edge brush to work this into, because it's going to help us in the long run. And come over the top here, I want to make sure that I hit over in here onto his hair a little bit, because we're going to play around with that a little bit, not too much, but just making sure that we get highlights. And right in the front here, as you can see, we're really just working this color in, and it's just giving us a little more depth, and that's all we're looking for. Just a little bit more to kind of really dig out some depth here. Remember, flat colors don't just work. They don't work. You need something to kind of sell that whole point that this is what your model is. It looks like it's real almost in some ways. I'm just taking a little bit of that and working that in there. And you see he's starting to stand out really well. All right, it's time to really bring this metal out. So let's head over and do some, well, you know it, Necron compound. All right, this is probably one of the most important parts, and that's using a Necron compound, which is a dry. We've been using a lot of dry paints, and I really think that they help immensely. But you can see by just coming over some of these edges and not taking out and being careful and nice and easy, you see how that brings that metal out. And that's what we're trying to do, is bring some life to this and really make it stand out a bit. And you could do that with these wonderful windows. You see how the mesh all of a sudden just comes alive. It really does, and you can really just get a fantastic result over the top of these spikes. You know, these are things that are just going to help you excel with this. Now watch this. Watch how this works. Just hitting the edges, and it gives you that depth that you're looking for. All right, because it makes the metal feel real, and that I think is just wonderful. And you want to be real careful with the hair here. You don't want to hit the hair, and we're going to come back to that hair in a bit. Just coming over this and going over all these edges makes a world of difference. I'm going to finish this up. You're going to see exactly what I'm going for, and then we will continue on. Well, unfortunately, my big finish video didn't tape because I didn't hit the play button. So I was talking to myself for a good 10 minutes. So I want to show you what I did here. I actually put, using some Evil Sun Scarlet, some braids into his hair. And then I did something new, and it was something I wanted to talk about, that you don't need to overkill it. Now, I'm not a big fan of putting blood on there, but we have blood for the blood god. And this is a very, very unique and very good paint. Some people like to cover their models with blood. I think less is more. So if you look right here, I just put some dots of that there. I want to give not the illusion, but the effect that this is a battle-tested weapon in many ways, and that, you know, they're in the middle of a battle. And just the slightest hints of it, I think, instead of covering the weapon full of blood and everything like that, just a little bit, I think less is more there. And we put that on there. And, you know, pretty much, there you go, there you have it. I mean, real easy paint job. A lot of fun, very enjoyable, and I really enjoyed working with this particular figure. We're going to be moving on to a couple other things, and we're just going to keep pounding away at hate until we are completely finished. And I think this is just a fun, and the miniatures are absolutely beautiful. Another figure down, and a couple million to go, I think. Yeah, pretty much. Well, probably in the next week, we're going to take a little bit of a break from hate, and I'm going to show you a Rob's Impossible, Painting Impossible. I messed up real bad on something, and it's going to be really interesting. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So, until next time, it's your old pal Rob. We'll see you soon.